Welcome back to the patch, y'all. It is Saturday, July 18th right now. Been holding this update off for a week or so. Got some issues in the patch. We're gonna go over those, but just to give you a quick reminder of where we're at, we've got 94 days left until the Circleville Pumpkin Show weigh-off. Right now, this pumpkin behind me is 36 days old, but it's had its fair share of issues. Unfortunately, a little over a week ago, I noticed the growth slowing down on the plant. Well, not on the plant, but on the fruit itself. Secondary is still growing strong. Tertiary is filling in my patch like I wanted to. Secondary right behind the pumpkin was doing great, really taking off. But like I said, I noticed some of the growth on the pumpkin itself slowing down. Last update, I think we were right around 107 pounds with you guys. We've doubled that, so we're at 214 pounds. But unfortunately, I believe that is where this fruit is gonna stop. So, looking at it, we've got some disease on the outside of the pumpkin. I tried spraying it with alcohol, tried keeping it dry, and unfortunately, it just keeps spreading. It's been over a week now with no growth on the fruit. I think that's the end of the season for this fruit. Not exactly sure what's going on. There's a lot of fusarium, aka root rot, going around. We've had a lot of dry days followed by torrential downpours. And in this heavy clay soil that I have, that doesn't mean good things for the roots of the plant. So unfortunately, I do think it is root rot. It could be something else, you know. It's my second year in. I'm still learning a lot about these plants. There's still a lot of mysteries that go into growing giant pumpkins, but we're not gonna let it slow us down. I really encourage all of you to get involved with a local giant pumpkin growers club. We had a meeting the other night with the Circleville giant pumpkin growers. I let some of the guys know what I was dealing with. And there's a lot of guys there dealing with way worse issues than what I have. Some of them not able to get any females at all on their plants. Some of them not able to get those females to grow. So, you know, it could be a lot worse. 214 pounds at this point is my personal best, even though it's a damaged pumpkin that isn't gonna make it to the weigh-off. There's a couple other females on this plant I'll show you here in a second that I'm gonna try to start training and see if we can do something with those. And then my wife's porch pumpkin patch over in my side yard, it might turn into my main plant this year. So unfortunately, I'll probably cut off a few of the pumpkins over there that could have made some nice porch pumpkins and see if we can train that down to one fruit and get something done with it. Wasn't my plan to begin the year, and therefore I haven't taken care of that plant over there. I haven't trained any of the vines. Got vines growing on top of each other, but it has quite a few decent sized fruits on it that have popped up in the past week or two here. So I may end up training one of those into the pumpkin that hopefully I can take to the weigh-off. Because at this point, I don't think I'm gonna have a champion contender pumpkin, but if we could get anything to the weigh-off, that would be a win for the season for me. And if this is fusarium root rot, it lives in the same soil, lives in the patch for a couple of years. It's not something that's very easy to get rid of. There's a few different amendments to the soil that you can add to try to combat it. There's some beneficial bacteria and microbiology that you can do. Trichoderma is one thing that'll kind of fight against it. But this whole area of this patch next year is going to be a fire pit area. And over on the other side of my yard, we're going to start a brand new patch. And because of these issues, I think I might get in there late this summer, into this fall, put some drainage in, and try to create an area that we can grow pumpkins in without dealing with these issues that I'm dealing with now. Get the water out of the soil as quick as possible, make it some well-draining soil so that we have a better chance of growing a big championship contender giant pumpkin. So let's get into the patch here and I'll show you what we've got going on. So here we have Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam was growing pretty well for us for a while. just shy of day 25, day 30, like I said, I started to notice that the fruit wasn't growing as much. And since then, it hasn't grown at all. So if we take a look here, got a couple issues going on. You can see some of the whiting around the stem of this plant. And down here at the bottom, you can see some rotting starting, some soft spots. Now, that doesn't go underneath of the pumpkin. So I don't believe my platform here has led to any of these issues. I don't believe it's rotting out from the bottom. I think it's actually just surface rot that is starting to work its way inside of the pumpkin. And you'll probably notice this big chunk and gouge right here. I made a rookie mistake, was out here adjusting my fan that used to be in a plastic Sterilite box to help contain it, keep it waterproof. Since then, I've added this white tarp over top. So when I was removing it from that Sterilite container, I should have moved it away from the pumpkin when I was doing that. But unfortunately, I gouged the pumpkin and took a little chunk out of it with that plastic container. So I kept that dry. I don't think that started any of our issues. But if we work our way over to the side of the fruit here, you'll see these brown spots down here. Some sort of fungal disease that is working its way into the pumpkin. Like I said, I've treated those with alcohol, kept fans on them. On this side, we have a much bigger issue with that. It's this white that turns into a brown. It's soft. You can see up here, some of it's actually leaking out of the pumpkin. Moved this fan onto it. Really don't think I was having issues with my stem. Any of you other growers out there, give me some advice. There's a little bit of black on the end of where my main vine was. I don't think that's anything that I needed to worry about. The stem is still very nice and firm. Doesn't feel gummy or soft at all. You can see a little bit of black spots off this secondary vine that come off of it. But again, I don't think any of that really contributed to my issues. The main vine going back here is very healthy looking. Most of my plant looks pretty good. There's a spot or two in the back that I started having some leaves going down, but I think a lot of that was just sun damage, high heat. We've had a lot of 90 plus degree days with the heat index over 100 degrees. But this vine coming out right here is the secondary vine right behind that pumpkin. Very strong, vigorous growth on it. A lot of my other tertiaries are growing very strong as well. But we have this fruit down here. Now this was an open pollination. I did not hand pollinate it. I actually stopped imidacloprid on this plant when I noticed the weight going down on my main fruit. So some of the bugs have probably moved back in, and that including the bees. So the bees took care of this pollination for me, and I haven't noticed any dead bugs or dead bees on my plant. So I think I did a good job taking care of them. But this will become my main fruit on this plant, and we'll watch it for the next week or two here, see what happens with it, and hopefully I'm wrong. This isn't fusarium, it isn't root rot, and I can get this fruit to start growing with all of this massive plant behind it and turn it into something I can take to the weigh off. But if not, like I said, I have my secondary patch over in the side yard that in case this doesn't work out, I'm gonna start preparing to grow one of those pumpkins out there and thin some things out, see if I can get it to the weigh off. Before I take you over to that side patch though, I just want to show you one more thing. Finally was able to get my watering system hooked up and I want to show you what that looks like. So this is my rain barrel setup. I have it attached to my gutter on my garage to collect rainwater for me. Throughout the season, I've been siphoning water out of this to feed my plants. There for a little while, I was feeding water through a sprinkler with my city water coming out of the house. But I now have this on-demand RV water pump hooked up. Just something I bought off of Amazon, ran an extension cord over to it. I'm a plumber by trade, so I've got this copper I ran out of it, a valve going over to this control valve. This is a beehive control valve that feeds a water hose into my patch for a sprinkler system. Now, I purchased everything to do drip tape this year, but I just didn't have time to get it up and running and before the plant started taking off on me. So with this beehive control valve, it's controlled by Wi-Fi. I can be anywhere in the world, go onto my phone, turn it on. It'll actually tell me the flow rate going through that control valve, and it'll tell me how many gallons of water I'm watering the plant with. So that's really nice to help keep track of the daily water you're putting on your plant. I went ahead and ran another hose bib up here so that I can fill buckets, test water samples, turn it on, and the pump kicks on. When you open the valve, pump turns off when you turn the valve off. And out the top of it here, I have another valve. When I turn this on, pump kicks on, and I just have this hose ran into a T connection at the top of my tank here, and this just helps circulate water within the tank. And then what I've been doing is taking any of the foliar feeding, any of the fertilizer that I want to put in my water, mixing it up in a 5-gallon bucket, pouring it into this T on top, and then turning this valve on to circulate the water and get it mixed up for me. I have this Apera G4S water tester that I then take a sample out of this into a mason jar. I use my Apera water tester in there. It tells me the pH of the water, the ppms and EC of the water, so that I can make sure I'm not putting too much fertilizer into it, making sure the pH is correct and watering my plant that way. So I don't think I was overdoing it with any fertilizer. If anything, I was probably underwatering my plant because, like I said, we've had a lot of torrential downpours that I was trying to make up for and adjust my water accordingly. So this is one big win that we did get done. I'll continue using this over in my main patch, but over in my secondary patch, we're gonna have to figure out how to get water over there if I really want to start using one of these pumpkins to try and get it to a way off. So let me go ahead and take you over into the side patch and show you what that plant looks like, and how we're going to sacrifice some of my wife's porch pumpkins, try to get a big one. So now we're over in my side yard looking at this experimental patch. This is the 2449 wolf plant that I threw over here because it was underperforming at the beginning of the year, and decided I was going to grow some porch pumpkins for the wife. Since then, this plant has took off. So we're probably about 40 feet from the stump right now, and you can see these vines have really started growing. I have 2 secondaries that have become the main vines of the plant, stretching all the way out here. You can see there's quite a few young fruits. All of these have been open pollinated. The beginning of the season, I did hand pollinate 1 or 2 over here that aborted, probably due to the high heat. I have a couple fruits here that have this odd shape going on with them. You can see it's kind of pear-shaped, and there's some wrinkles down at the base of that fruit. Don't think we're going to use those. Also, as you can tell, this is growing over grass, which is not the ideal situation. Back of the stump of the fruit, I tilled a 5 foot by 5 foot area, amended the soil there, so it's at least getting some nutrients from that. But I think I'm gonna start taking water out of my rain barrel that I've mixed fertilizer with and bring it over here and spray it. May even get a long garden hose, hook it up to a sprinkler system and bring it over here and feed this plant that way. So this plant has not received any of the imidacloprid, hasn't received any fungicides, and somehow it's growing beautifully. So these are two fruits that may be contenders for me. They're both growing off of different secondaries, probably 3 or 4 feet off the main vine. Right now they're just laying on the soil, so I need to get some sand at the very least, maybe a couple foam boards underneath of them. And then I'll probably go into this plant, do some pruning, pull out a bunch of these secondaries and tertiaries that I don't want to grow, see what we can do with that. Now this plant, like I've shown you before, had some issues with it. There's split in the main vine here. The main vine really isn't very big compared to my competition patch, but that is to be expected because again, it just hasn't been receiving the care and nutrients that my main patch has. If I work my way over here, there's another couple decent sized fruits off this secondary. But one other thing I'm battling is rabbits. So I've had quite a few young females that the rabbits have gotten to. But this is another pear-shaped fruit with kind of some odd bubbling growth on the end of it there. So that's one that I will probably cut off. There's another decent little fruit down here. If I can get you down there, you can see the bottom of a rabbit tooth that bit into it. And there's some more down here that have open pollinated that we'll see what happens with. So I haven't come up with an exact plan for this yet. There's been no vine training done on this plant. I've just let it grow wild. So I'm gonna have to get in here, take out some of this growth that's going beyond the pumpkins that I'm gonna try to grow out now. I'll probably leave 2, maybe 3 pumpkins on this to see which one of them starts to take off, and hopefully I can get one of these to the way off. I still have a little bit of hope for that last female I showed you in my main patch. Ideally that one takes off. It's got a lot more area to get nutrients from, a lot better soil condition. But this is the experimental patch. Oh, got a little hummingbird visitor, just took off there. But yeah, this is the experimental patch. And we'll see what we can do with this. So in my next video, I'll probably give you a little time lapse of me getting out here working. I've been pretty down in the dumps about what's been going on in the main patch. So, you know, I lost a lot of will to get out here and work on these pumpkins. But like I said, going to that meeting the other night with some local giant pumpkin growers really reinvigorated me, got me excited again about growing these fruits. And I think everybody needs that. So if you're trying to grow these, especially if you're having a tough time, I really encourage you to reach out to your local growers, get involved with your local Giant Pumpkin Growers Club if you can. It's a great resource, a lot of great information, and just a lot of great friendship that can come out of it, and some encouragement. So I'm reinvigorated. I'm ready to tackle these plants, see what we can do for the rest of the season. I apologize, it's not the update I wanted to give y'all. I know I was really hoping for Uncle Sam to take off and be a big fruit. It had all the signs of being a big one, something that we could take to a way off and really contend with. But that's giant pumpkin growing. It's a roller coaster. You got your ups and your downs, and we've experienced quite a few downs the past couple weeks. So keep an eye out for some future videos, see how the season turns out for us. As always, until next time, grow 'em big.